Hello, happy Monday. Thank you for joining me tonight, everyone. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make lovely and quirky hand embroidery patterns and kits. And I'm here every weeknight at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. It's a time where we relax and we craft, we work on a project together from beginning to end, and we're here for about an hour every weeknight. So thanks replay viewers for watching, and thank you YouTube viewers for watching. This will go up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies when we're done here tonight. So thanks again for joining me. We are still going to be working on the Make It 80% Good needle punch. So here's the back of it where you can see it in the right order. So you can't read it all that well on the back, but it says make it 80% good. There's the little percentage sign there. We just have a little bit more of the 8 and the percent sign to go yet tonight. Here's the front again. It's reversed for you guys, but it'll be right when I flip you guys around. But yeah, so I have no sewing machine yet. I haven't picked it up. I have to call them at the shop, see how it's doing. I'm getting a new belt on my sewing machine, but when I got the sewing machine back, we'll finish this up and then we'll start sewing on the charming chevron quilt again that we've been doing for the past few weeks. So thanks for joining me again, guys. We are going to hopefully get real close to finishing this. If we don't finish it tonight, we'll finish it tomorrow. I still want to finish the back nicely so we have a cute back. We'll cut away all our extra fabric and get it looking cute from the front and the back. We'll do that tomorrow, and that's the plan. So needle punch, or punch needle, I suppose. It's kind of like rug hooking. It's kind of the new big thing I feel like in crafting. It's been around for ages and ages, but you know how crafts have trends and all that. I think this is kind of the thing I've been excited about lately. So we're going to continue on this tonight. I'm going to use my Ultra Punch needle. And here we go. Here, you can do a Google search for Ultra Punch, and you should be able to find it there. There's a lot of people selling kits for needle punch or punch needle out there right now too. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining me. Gonna flip you around. We will get going. Okay, here we are. Good. Oh yes, so I was out on on Thursday and Friday, so it's been a little bit of time since I've seen you guys. It always feels weird when I've been gone for so long, but it was super fun seeing family. We got to hang out and spent a ton of time outside. It was super duper nice. But yeah, now I'm back and trying to just get into things. It's a long car ride, and I feel like that kind of wipes me out. So I'm having like a recovery day today. All right, so here's our punch needle again. I'm going to put it on the 4 setting. That's what we've been doing for the height of our normal loops. Each of these makes the needle longer and longer, and the longer the needle, the bigger the loops are. So I've been kind of fluctuating between size 4 and size 8. So size 4 are these short little loopies, and size 8 are the bigger loopies here. So we've just been doing different ones for texture. And the text up here, where it's super flat, where it just looks like back stitches, we're actually working backwards for that. So typically you work from the back of your piece to the front. So this is the back, and I'm pushing these loops through with my needle, and then I get a really loopy front. But it was too loopy for this text. Like, it was hard to read. So it kind of looked like this, and I'm like, yeah, that's too hard to read. But I do like what's happening on the back here. It looks like back stitches. So instead of working from back to front, which is typical, I worked from front to back for this smaller type, and that's why it's flat, and it doesn't have the same texture as the fuzzy 80 here. Oh, and the 80%, again, make it 80% good. That's kind of my saying that it runs through my head several times a day, and it helps me beat away perfectionism. So if I know that I only have to make it 80% good, I don't have to have it be perfect, I don't have to have it be 100% good. If I just say make it 80% good, that's enough for me to get over the hump of starting a project and finishing a project and just working my way through whatever task I'm doing during the day. So if I just shoot for, oh, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be 80% good, then it helps get things finished. So that's my whole make it 80% good. I wanted to make a little wall hanging of it so I can hang it up around my office. But all right, let's get going here. I think I'm using a pile of scraps here, so all scrap embroidery floss. I think I want to use maybe pink for the rest of this 80. I think I'm just going to fill the whole thing in. I did not do a project in the car, Gretchen. I'm usually driving. I like that drive back there, and then my husband can get some work done, and I can just chill and ride in the car, drive the car. So I'm usually driving. Oh, hey Sue, miss watching you. All right, so threading the needle. I got my big long needle threader here. The needle is basically a tube, and then there's a slash cut out of it. So you can kind of see that there, a diagonal slash, and where you can see the opening of that slash, that's the front. Then you have the two sides where it's at the angle, and then the back is where it's still curved, where you can't see the slash. So that's important because when we stitch, we want to lead with one or the other sides. So one of the angled sides is what we're going to be leading with. I think some other punch needles are different. The bigger ones, I've seen people, they lead with the front instead, but with this one, according to its instructions, we're going to be leading with either side, which is nice because then we can go back and forth without rotating the needle, which is just gentler on my hands. So all right, first we go into the tube from the front of the needle, and it comes out of the back of our little pin here, and I'm going to put my embroidery floss in there. I'm using 6-strand embroidery floss, and I haven't split the strands. It's all 6 strands, and I'm using the medium-sized tube here, needle. The one that I got, the Ultra Punch needle, came with 2 other sizes, a thin size, and that I would use a thinner thread, basically, and then the thicker size, and I can use even a wider floss, or maybe even a small piece of yarn, small thin yarn, instead of the embroidery floss here. But this medium size is working good for the embroidery floss. Oh, you've been quilting and quilting. That's nice. You have to switch your hand needles because they are breaking. Oh man, are they thin needles? I haven't had well, I suppose if you're using certain thin needles, yeah, those could break if you're for hand needles. But if you're doing like embroidery with like a size 5 embroidery needle, that's what I like embroidering with. Those I think would be pretty tough to break. But yeah, for hand quilting, sometimes you want a thinner needle, and yeah, I suppose those could break. That's a bummer, Gretchen. All right, so not only do I have to thread the tube, I also have to thread through the eye of the needle there. So I'm gonna stick the needle threader through there again, grab that floss, and pull it through the eye. Okay, now we are threaded. So there we go. Our punch needle is ready to go. I have just the bulk of it laying to my side here. I want to make sure that this isn't caught on anything, because if it is, then it can pull out all my little punches. So all right, I think I'm going to just start on the edge here. I think I'm going to go the whole edge, and then we'll just kind of work our way, filling in all the little pieces here. So I'm going to just punch right on the edge there, and I'm going to just start right away. I'm not going to do the thing where I pull the thread out to the front. like I have been doing. I'm just going to leave it there. And now we're pushing in our little stitches. I'm leading with one of those sides. So one of those angled side edges. I'm just following the line. You want to push the needle all the way in though, because that's what's controlling the size of the loop on the other side. We can just look around. There are my loops, my little pink loops starting to be made. And you can see they're kind of far apart, but as we get going, we're gonna just make more and more of them, and they'll push up next to each other and they'll squish, and all of the loops together will give it kind of the mass. But the little loops individually, they kind of stand apart as just teeny little loops. Oh, Jenna, that could be, it could be like maybe a lotion you're using or something like that. I haven't had that happen before though, but some of my older needles are like that. They might just tarnish with different oils or something on them. Ooh, get this guy out of the way. But there we go. I'm just making basically little back stitches here. And I'm rotating my pen, my needle here. I keep calling it a pen because it looks like a pen, but I'm rotating it so I'm always leading with one of those sides, the side of the needle, not the front or the back. Right, and then now I'm just gonna come back the other way. Still leading with the side edge, but now I'm leading with the other side. And we're gonna just keep going around and around and fill this thing in. So I'm doing the next row very close to the row before. And the closer the rows, the more dense my loops will be ultimately when they're all next to each other. So we're just chilling, pushing all these little loops in. Let's just peek. So there we go. Here's our 2 rows of loops, and here's our 1 row. You can see the little spaces in between, but yeah, they start to get filled out once you get all more rows in there. Oh, the gold quilting needle, number 11, that doesn't break or tarnish. That's cool. So number 11, that's probably a pretty thin needle, right? That sounds good. I should find some of those. I acquire needles. I don't go out and find the perfect needle very often. Those straw needles that I bought, those are, or Milner's needles, those are really long and thin needles. I think that's the first time I've kind of sought out a particular needle size, and we use that for our English paper piecing. All right, I'm gonna cruise down here and get this whole bottom section filled, but first you can see that this is kind of getting tangled, coming at me. I don't want any tension because it'll just pull out the loops. The only thing keeping these loops in the piece here is the fabric pushing against it. So we're poking a hole in the fabric in between the fabric threads, and then it's wanting to push back where it came from, and that's what's holding in these loops. And the more loops we put next to each other, the more pushing action really the fabric has. But if I pull on a little strand, the whole thing will come out. And I don't want that. All right, there, we kind of filled that bottom section. Let's take a peek. There we are. Cute little pink loops. Oh, oh, funny. Yes, Andrea. So Andrea is my cousin, and she brought my little second cousin over when we were visiting family. He wanted to needle punch. But yeah, so I feel like I'm definitely getting faster than the first time. So this is my first needle punch project. And a couple Saturdays ago, we started it and just kind of figured it out. And over on my Instagram stories, and now it's just really fun. I'm kind of getting in the groove of it a little bit more. I'm excited to try different things with it, and I think we'll just keep going back and forth here to fill up this space. But I'd love to try the bigger punch needle that I could use like bulky yarn with. That'd be neat. Oh, you just ordered a bunch of, Sharon, you ordered a bunch of the straw needles. Yeah, the size 11 straw needles. That's awesome. That'll be a fun package when that arrives. But yeah, since they're thin and long, they tend to bend when you use them a lot. So yeah, that's smart to get a few of them, get a package of them. All right, now I'm going to sneak down here. I'm stitching these really close to each other, but that's okay. On the front, they'll just all look like loops. All right, get tied up here a little bit again. Just loosening all this. I think we will have enough of this pink to finish the 8, which will be pretty nice. All right, now I think I'll just go back and forth to fill in this little section here. I suppose I gotta fill in maybe 2 stitches in here. There we go. Am I using a special background fabric for needle punch projects? Dawn, that's a great question. Yes. So, you know, again, this is my first one doing this, but first time doing punch needle, but I did do some research beforehand, and it said not to use 100% cotton fabric. So don't use quilting weight fabric or muslin fabric is what I've read. And the reason why is that the needle can cut those threads because they're woven, they're kind of delicate and they're woven pretty tightly. So with punch needle, you want to kind of push those threads out of the way, but you still want it to be pretty strong. So what I've read is you want to use like a cotton canvas. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. So the canvas, because it's heftier thread, I think, is the reasoning. So it won't break when I'm punching the needle through. I'm using jeans. I'm using like a lightweight jeans, not super heavy, because I figured it's kind of like cotton canvas and it's the closest I had. So that's what I'm using, and it seems to be working. This is a lightweight jean. I think it's actually called a midweight jean from Robert Kaufman that I just happen to have in my stash. But yeah, so like a cotton canvas is what's recommended, I believe, for the punch needle that you use with this Ultra Punch, which is the smaller size that you can use with embroidery floss. For the yarn, for the big kind, the yarn, that you want to use like a monk's cloth, and there's or a weaver's, oh, what is it called? Not weaver's cotton. I know we keep talking about this weaver's cloth, and that's like a 50% cotton and a 50% like polyester, so it's a bit stronger. You want to use something like that. Actually, weaver's cloth for this as well. But since I didn't have any of that stuff, I'm using this jean fabric. Yeah, your research this week showed a product called, yeah, monk's cloth or weaver's cloth. So there is a monk's cloth that you can buy at like Joann's, but I think that's a little bit bigger, woven bigger than what I think the needle punch people use in their kits and stuff. So I think weaver's cloth, or this monk's cloth, is a little tighter weave than that, but it still allows like the big fat yarn to be put through. I would go onto Etsy and look for someone who has a kit if you're wondering about fabric or want to give it a try. I'm just trimming the last little bit of thread there. That's actually what I might do after this. This I just kind of jumped in. I got the punch needle here, the Ultra Punch, because I wanted something that I could change the sizes of my loops, so then I could have the tall loops and the short loops. And then I wanted it something that I could use with embroidery floss, because I have tons of embroidery floss. So I got the smaller needle. But I do definitely want to try a kit that has one of the bigger ones that I can put bulky yarn through. I thought that'd be pretty fun. But yeah, you can test different fabric. Again, this is my first try, but I have heard that just quilting weight cotton or muslin is probably not the way to go, because it can cut through your fabric. All right, we got the 80 done, filled it in with all this little pink here. I think that's pretty cute. Can your Ultra Punch do yarn with the larger needle? So I think, let's take a look at it. So it does come with a larger needle. I haven't tested it out yet. So here is, ooh, look, it's got a whole protective thing on it. But here is the difference between the medium and the large. So it is quite a bit bigger. You know, I'm not fitting any bulky yarn in that for sure, but I could probably fit like a little fine mohair in there, or I don't know, maybe a sock yarn might just fit. The thing is, you want your thread to freely move through there. Like if you're getting stuck, like if it's really working hard to get through, then I think it's too big of yarn for the needle. And I'm just looking at the eye of the large needle here. I'm looking at the eye of that, and that's not all that big either. So I think like a little mohair could be really cute. Maybe we'll have to do like some experimenting with some of the yarn that I have, see what fits in this when I'm done. When we're done with this project, maybe I'll just start one up and we'll do a couple little tests of some yarn and test some of these other ones. But yeah, so it's not that much bigger, but it could fit a bit more. But here's the other thing. It's bigger, right? So that's going to make bigger holes in your canvas here. So you got to make sure that your fabric is strong enough that you can pierce it with like a big needle here, right? And that it's going to still bounce back and not get cut. So I think it's a conglomeration of, does your floss fit through the needle, and is the needle right for the fabric that you picked too? So those are kind of the three things you got to be thinking about when you're putting your materials together, I think. So I've read that the medium, somewhere I read, I think it actually might be in the instructions here, that the medium one is good for 6-strand embroidery floss. So I just started using that from the get-go. But yeah, after this, I'll just have to start experimenting with other sizes and what other yarns can fit what. But you can stitch with any yarn. So if it fits through the needle and it gets punched through the fabric, you can use whatever works. You can even use, like with the large ones, you can use even strips of wool. You know, strips of wool fabric. You could probably put strips of any fabric, really, which would be kind of cool. But yeah, so it just needs to be able to fit through the eye. But yeah, there's a lot of experimentation to be had for sure, and I'm kind of excited. This is a craft I've been wanting to try for a little bit, and I just couldn't handle it anymore and had to give it a go. So that's what we're doing here. All right, we are done with it, 80. There's just the percentage bit here again, and I think I'm going to start filling in the percentage, this little bit here. I'll use maybe a little bit of the pink, and then maybe we'll switch in the middle, because we've switched, you know, then it has like all this marbled look that the rest of it has. So we'll we'll fill a little area and then we'll switch it up a little bit. Oh, thanks, Christine. Now, when you're done, do you go back and snip the loops? You don't have to snip the loops. So, you know, I have a lot of, oh, you mean, am I going to snip these loops? So one thing that's kind of fun, again, that I've read, I haven't done, but you could actually go back and like with these tall loops, I could get a scissors in each of these loops and trim them all. Or if I made them really tall, I could just, you know, snip the whole top really. But then it wouldn't be loops anymore. It would be little like fur almost. Just, you know, they wouldn't be loops. They'd have like the blunt ends, right? So, you know, it would just be like a bunch of ends like this together instead of loops. And that would give it a different texture as well. And again, it's going to stay there because the fabric's holding it together as long as you don't pull on it. Punch needle isn't something that you want to be washing, or you don't. It's something that you don't want to be handling a lot because it is delicate. It does look like a good big mass of stuff. But again, if I take one of these loops and I pull, the whole thing's going to start pulling out. So it's not like embroidery. It's not like hand embroidery where you can wash it. It's going to hold together. You know, you're tying knots and you're weaving in ends to hold the whole thing together. This is purely just holding itself in by the fact that you're not pulling on anything. So it's more, I think, for like a wall hanging, or if you do it as a rug, you know, this is like rug making. People do this basically the same process, but when they're done, they're putting like a latex glue, or they're putting some sort of glue on the back, and then they're putting another piece of fabric on to protect it. So you know, so everything is glued down and the backs of the stitches are protected. So it's a little bit more. It'll keep a little bit more, but yeah, so I wouldn't want to put this on like dishcloths or anything, even though it looks like, ooh, this would be great in a quilt, or great, you know, great for like an alternative to embroidery or something. But yeah, it's not the same. It's definitely more delicate. It's fun though. It is fast, you know. Even though, you know, I'm filling all these shapes in and everything, so you'd think it'd, you know, not be the fastest thing in the world, but it is. It's fast, and it's got that good craft thing. The thing that I love about certain crafts where you zen out in the monotonous, like the repetitive motion of things. I think I'm gonna just go to the top with this, and then we'll switch colors. But yeah, so I'm just punching, going over a little punching, going over a little punching. I don't have to think about anything, and it's just really enjoyable to do that. So I think we'll go about there, and I want to switch colors just so it's more modeled. So I'm just going to snip this guy. Ooh, did I get all the stitches? Yeah. All right. So we started the little percentage sign there, and you wonder how they make the chenille. It has that punch look fuzzy bumps. Chenille, like in a rug or something. Sometimes. Well, chenille, there's actually a machine, a sewing machine that makes little loops like this and cuts them, and it can make little fringes. There's actually an industrial sewing machine that does that. And then there's also, I think we'll do, what color should we pick? There's also, for rug making, is basically like needle punch, but they're using a gun that punches the needles and it cuts it at the same time, but it's exactly the same thing. It pushes yarn through from the back, exactly how we're doing this, and the only difference is, well, it's a gun, so it goes super duper fast, and it snips it too. So you're not going to have, you can make it with loops if you don't have the snipper on, but it can snip it if you just want, you know, that raw edge on it. When you're quilting, chenilling when you're quilting is when you put a bunch of layers of fabric and then you sew some lines and then you cut in between the lines except for the bottom layer. Then you have all the rows of fringe. That's what chenilling is in quilting. All right, I think I'm just pulling out this green. I think I'm going to use that to fill in the rest of this little middle of that percent guy. All right, let's thread the needle again. So in from the front. We are totally going to finish this tonight, except for maybe making the outside. So tomorrow, I think what we'll do is, whoop, drop that. I think we will finish the back so it's cute, and then maybe I'll get more of this out and we'll try the other needles and maybe we'll try some yarn and some other stuff before finishing up with needle punch for a little while. We'll do some experimenting with, we'll experiment with some hoops. Like I have a wrapped hoop. Like we'll try this if this holds fabric well enough for needle punch. We'll give that a go, and yeah, maybe I'll go grab some. I think I have some little mohair, some other little thin thread, and or like, you know, small little yarns like this embroidery floss. We'll try some other stuff. We'll see. Maybe we'll even try experimenting with how big these loops get. Like I have not gone on the size 12 yet. We could do a bunch of punches on size 12 and then maybe trim those. We'll do a little experimenting with the punch needle before not doing punch needle again for a little while. I think that'd be fun. Maybe I'll do a little search, see if I have any other fabric laying around, and we'll give it a go. We'll experiment a little bit more. All right, so I'm going to just fill in the rest of this with this green. Then we'll have like a pretty pink and green little percentage guy. But yeah, I think that'd be fun. So tomorrow we'll finish this up by just like, you know, making the back look nice. And then we will get another hoop and we will run some tests on the other sizes of the needle and some other threads, some yarns, whatever else. I think that'd be fun. And then hopefully after that I will have my sewing machine back. Otherwise we'll do something else fun. I think this pink and green are kind of pretty next to each other. Just trying to make this nice and dense, so I'm putting a lot of stitches in there. I think that's about all she wrote there. So let's trim. So I'm just pulling my needle back a little to make that loop, and that's been making it easier to just trim. There we go. And then I can just trim the rest close to the edge here. Trim that guy, and I didn't trim this pink either. All right, so that is a little bit of the percentage side. It's pretty goofy, but I like it. All right, let's choose another color. So I think for this last little ball, let's do it the same way we did this guy. So for this circle, what I did is what they call in the punch needle instructions, they called it contouring. And what I did is it's a circle. So on the outer circle, what I did is I did it at a lower number here, so it made my loops shorter. And then the next row on the inside, I went a little higher. And then the next row after that, I went a little higher. So in theory, when you look from the side, it's kind of like a little dome. It's pretty subtle, but it's there. It's kind of like a little half of a puffball. So it's short on the outside and it gets taller and taller. I like that. So let's do that again. And this orange is kind of staring at me. So why don't we do it? Let's do it in this bright, crazy orange. Ooh, I have a lot in here. I don't think I need that much. So I'm just going to snip this. And all right, let's thread this guy again. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just make it look exactly like this one. I'll start on the 3 for the outer circle, then I'll go to 4, and then I'll fill the rest in with the 5. Yeah, Connie, I think that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to use a regular hoop. These are like those special auburn hoops. I'm going to use my normal hoop and see how well that holds the fabric. It should be okay, I'm thinking. You want your fabric to be nice and taut because you keep pushing on it. So you don't want, every time you push on it, you don't want it to just push out of your hoop. So I'm going to use this one. This is just a normal wooden embroidery hoop, but I have wrapped the inner hoop with some fabric, and that's going to help push, it's going to help hold the fabric a little bit better than if I would just left it just the 2 wooden hoops. So we're going to give that a try. I think this will hold the fabric easy enough. And I'll try and find some other fabric similar to the cotton canvas. Again, I'm using this jean fabric, but if this is all I can find besides my quilting weight cotton, then we'll just use this again. But we'll try out some different yarns and stuff. That'll be fun. See how far I can push it. See how thick of a yarn I can get into that larger needle. And if the needle will even punch through the jeans. All right, so starting on 3, then I'll go to 4 and then 5, just like how I did this one. Oh, you know what? I can snip these shorter too, but we don't have to. You don't have to snip them because this is going to be my back, but I'm just snipping them a little bit so they don't get in my way when I work on that circle. All right. Oh, someone asked earlier if this is hurting my hands at all. And it's not at all. So I'm just holding it just like a pen. I'm actually gripping it a lot looser than I normally grip a pen. I'm really, like when I write, I'm like really holding my pencil like this. I'm not doing the same here. I'm just kind of gently pushing all the way in. I mean, you can hear that thump. So it sounds like I'm really working hard at it, but I'm not. I'm just gently pushing in the needle. So no, I haven't, it hasn't been hurting my hand at all. So this time, since I don't want this little thread in my way on the back, I'm going to pull it to the front and we'll trim it down later. There we go. All right, now let's go around the outside. So remember, I gotta keep leading with the side of the needle. So I'm going to keep rotating the needle as I go around this outer side. I could rotate my fabric too. That's actually a little bit easier for me, but since we're working in such a small little circle here, I'm just going to go rotate my needle instead. Rotate the pen. All right, so remember, I'm going around the outside on that lower setting. All right, so now I think I'm gonna push it in, but then I think now on the second row, I'm gonna change it to the 4. There we go, now we're a little longer, and I'm gonna go around the second row here at that number 4, so a little taller. Yeah, I actually thought this would hurt my hand a little bit more because it does make a lot of noise. It sounds like you're really working hard with the punch needle, but it's been really easy. All right, so now the rest I'm going to just do at the level 5. which is a little taller. And we'll go around the circle again, and then I think there's like a stitch or two in the middle. And we'll see what we got. I think maybe 2 stitches in here. All right. It is, it's like a little poofy half puff ball. All right, so I pulled the back of the needle again to just give me that little loop. Snip in there, pull the needle out again. You know, if you want to use this orange again, you could just pull the thread a little bit, but we are done. So I'm just gonna pull that out. Let's close the needle up so I don't stab myself. So on this punch needle, there's just like a setting here, which will just make the needle go away, which is great because it is pretty sharp. You know, it'll cut through fabric, so you don't want to stab yourself with it. All right, I'm gonna trim these little ends, and then we'll take a look at this little puff ball here. All right, so here is where we change the settings. I'm just gonna kind of just try and push those little areas away. Sculpt it a little bit. I almost want to take some hairspray and push the different loops away from each other. But there we go. So you can kind of tell on this puff ball around the outside, there from the side, you can kind of tell around the outside it's a little shorter, and then as I get to the middle, it's taller, so it makes kind of a little circular poof. And it's pretty cute. So, all right, that is it for the 80% good. Make it 80% good. So, and I think this is about 80% good. You know, there's some little areas that are a little goofy in here. Some of where I started, some of my rows a little farther apart and everything. And, you know, I had to pull this out 3 times before I got it to look right on the front. But by just making it 80% good, it let me keep going and get it done. So tomorrow, I think we're gonna end it tonight, but there's the finished punch needle. Tomorrow what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim around here, and then we will sew this up. So we got like a cute little bow here, and it'll kind of hold all the back of this together. But I am pretty happy with it. First punch needle, make it 80% good. I'm gonna have to hang that up in my office so it can remind me to just get it done, just shoot for 80%. Oh, you'd say it's more like 98% good. Oh, thanks, Deborah. But that's the whole thing. Like if you shoot for just 80%, once you're actually working on the project, then, you know, then you can get it back up to like, you know, closer to the 100% that you were going for. But just the thinking, oh, it only has to be 80%. Then that's what can help you get over the lump of starting, or the hurdle. Oh, thanks, Dawn. I'm glad you enjoyed this. So, all right, so let's just take a look at the stitches. So again, this is the make it is where we worked from the front to the back. So we actually worked backwards for those. And look at all the texture of these different size loops. So these short ones were all the size 4, and then these taller ones were the size 8. And it looks fun. So a lot of times what people do with punch needle, they'll fill in the entire shape. So like we could fill in this entire background with, you know, I don't know, a different color. And that will help hold the shape a little bit. You know, like I wouldn't have to kind of push these loops away from these loops because other loops would be pushing it away for me. But I'm leaving the background. I like it just on this blue jean fabric, and I think we're good to go. So yeah, we'll finish this up tomorrow, and we'll do a little bit more experiments with the other size needles. I'll show you how to take the needle out, which I actually haven't done. So we'll take the needle out of here, this needle, and we'll put in a different needle, and we'll try some yarn, and we'll try it in the other hoop. So, all right, I am going to flip you guys around, and we'll call it an evening. Hello again. So that went fast. I'm so happy with this. This is definitely a craft that I think is, ooh, look, it's cute. Just like a chill out craft, and it doesn't take as long as it looks. So again, we have so much filled in areas, but it's so fast and mellow. This would be like the perfect sit and watch a movie craft for sure. So I am loving it. I love all the colors and texture, and I used up scrap floss, which makes me happy, using up all the things. So, all right, guys, thanks again for joining me. We will finish up the back to make it nice and pretty tomorrow and do all the experimenting with some other yarn and stuff for punch needle. And then we'll wrap it up for punch needle for a little while and get back to sewing on our charming chevron quilt again. So, all right, I will get this up on YouTube at Penguin and Fish Movies tonight. And if you subscribe on YouTube there, then you'll get an email when the video is all done uploading if you wanted to check back on the replay. So thanks again, and I will see you all tomorrow. It was great chatting again. It's been forever. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.